Hey everybody, we're back in the law shanty. I know what you're thinking. It's Tuesday afternoon. It's past 3 o'clock. Where's the law shanty? Why don't we have a law shanty? Did Palazzolo forget? What's he doing? Working for a living? Well, I mean, what the heck's going on? I'm not. I am working, but I'm not. I didn't forget you. What I did was I delayed this intentionally and on purpose because I was just watching a live Q&A from the state of Michigan on return to work and the return to work group. And it was pretty interesting, and I would encourage you to go look at it. They said they taped it. It was about 30 minutes long. There was a little PowerPoint presentation with some really cool statistics at the front. And then there was some Q&A at in the last part of it that you might find interesting. But I thought I would take and do a really very short law shanty today to give you what I think are the high points of that and what we can expect on return to work here in the next couple of weeks and months based on what I heard today and based kind of piggybacking off of what we told you Friday, you know, that kind of inside baseball thing that I gave you Friday when we called the state and asked them some questions. So again, the thing started out with some pretty cool statistics. The most surprising to me of which was that office environments, as they were called, this congregate setting of an office environment, over the last 6 months created the 6th highest number of outbreaks of COVID-19 in the state. Nursing homes was at the top, and K through 12 schools might have been second, but offices was 6th. Now, part of the reason for that is the way they define outbreak. Outbreak is 2 or more people getting the disease from a single source. And part of the reason for that is because bars and restaurants have been closed for a big chunk of that time. So you can't get an outbreak there, which I think would have pushed up and pushed offices down a little. But regardless of why, offices were 6th highest. I think there was something like 275 outbreaks traced back to offices. And the other thing you need to keep in mind is businesses are required to report this kind of stuff. So you're not going to get a report of an outbreak at your kid's softball game because they don't have to report, but businesses do. With that in mind, that's why kind of offices are getting the press they're getting, I guess, and the coming back to work, that the emphasis on coming back to work is. So let me give you a couple of takeaways that I took from that again are going to be piggybacked off what we talked on Friday. Takeaway number 1, don't forget the MIOSHA Emergency Rule expires on the 14th of April. It was made abundantly clear in this thing that it is going to be extended in some form. Might not look exactly like it is. It was made clear that the rule can be modified. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but the rule is going to be extended. The rule is pretty, as you know, comprehensive now. It's got a lot of stuff in it. The one thing that most of you are really concerned about that we want to know about is when can we have in-person work in offices again, which is what this thing was designed to deal with. When can we have in-person work in offices again? Second takeaway that we got from this thing was that there will be modifications to the rule. There's not much doubt about that. And it was pointed out that the rule in its present form can accept, is set up to be modified and to accept modifications. So as we move through the pandemic, as things improve, as they hopefully are, although our incident rate spiked a little again the last couple of days, but it was down pretty low, that there will be modifications to the rule to allow in-person work to start reoccurring again. Which gets us to the issue of in-person work. Now, during the presentation, it was interesting to me that a point was made that the rule does not specifically prohibit in-person work, and that the media had been reporting that people couldn't go to offices and it was prohibited and all that. And the answer to that, according to this presentation, was that's incorrect. The rule does not prohibit in-person work. The rule says, quote, the employer shall create a policy prohibiting in-person work for all employees to the extent that their work activities can feasibly be completed remotely, end quote. So I guess technically speaking, that's correct. It doesn't prohibit in-person work, except for everybody who can do their work remotely, like me. And here I am in my law shanty being remote. So technically the rule does prohibit in-person work for me because I can feasibly do my work remotely. But what was interesting to me and what was pointed out was the rule's not static. The rule itself is not static, but the determination of what's feasible isn't static. It can evolve over time, taking into account a lot of things like mitigating measures and economics, and there were a couple other things he pointed out, that we want to take into account. So the rule's not static. So what that means to me is that you can and should be constantly looking at your rule to determine whether or not it's feasible to continue to do the kind of work that's being done remotely now, remotely. The other thing that was talked about a lot was the issue of this new work group that the governor's put in place. Now, the work group consists of public health officials, labor union people, business representatives, and, as was pointed out in the presentation, small businesses have now been added so that they've got a voice in this too, because there's a big difference between great big company A that's a multinational and, mom and pop shop over here. So we want everybody to have a voice. Mr. Egan said that they expect the work group to take 4 to 6 weeks to complete its work. So that gets us to the end of April before the work is completed. That's cool. But what was really cool was he said, as recommendations are made, they're going to roll them out. They're not going to hold on to them till the end. So we might start seeing things coming out of this group, hopefully within the next couple of weeks. And hopefully by the time we get to April 14th, when the new emergency rule goes into place, we've got at least some guidance from this work group about when we could start bringing people back to work. Okay? Now, that's not a lot of substance, is it? No, it's not. But I think it's really good news. It means we're moving in the right direction. And Mr. Egan pointed out a couple of times there's a light at the end of the tunnel and the light's getting bigger. Usually that means the train is getting closer to you. But I don't think in this case that's the case. As we roll out the vaccine, as more people get vaccinated, as the incident rates continue to fall, we're going to start seeing people coming back to work. So keep an eye on us. Go to the state and look at the website if you want. I think you're going to see, we're going to start seeing some guidance about when we can start bringing people back into the office. I think that's a really good thing. Have a great couple of weeks. We'll see you next time.